This is Dragonesque 4 coming at you, and I'm doing something a little different today. This video is in honor of Godzilla. I'm doing a movie review. I usually don't do them, but I feel it's necessary in this case, okay? But before I get started, I want to say I'm a really big fan of Godzilla normally. And this is in memorandum of Godzilla. I'm wearing a ring that I created. I call my Godzilla Talon. I don't have a Godzilla shirt, but this is as close as I got. Alright, where to start? First, I gotta say, don't bother, okay? Don't waste your money on this movie. This movie was bad. It was very poorly done, and I'm a big Godzilla fan. I love Godzilla. I've seen almost all the movies of Godzilla. Some were good, some were bad. This is an example of one of the ones that were just really mediocre and verging on bad. Okay? There's just so many things wrong with this movie that I don't really know where to start. There were inconsistencies, there were plot errors, character things that didn't look right, very flat acting. Okay, so let me just roll it off for you. Alright, first off, this has got to be one of the ugliest Godzilla representations I have ever seen. His feet were like squares, big squarish looking things. He looked like he had diabetes. Like you would see on a person who's been sitting around eating too many unhealthy snacks and causing their blood sugar to go up. He looked like his feet had swollen and he had gotten diabetes. His head was all thick and lumpy, and I know Godzilla's not normally, Godzilla's like, okay, he's got a lot of bumps, okay? But, his head was like, no neck. He just looked ugly. The only thing I will give that movie is that the fact that they went towards the original formula with his spines. Because if you follow Godzilla as I do, the original movie, Godzilla had those radioactive spines which were really pointy and stick out a lot. And then they went into a series of Godzillas where they were more smooth bumps. And so now this movie went back to the original formula of having the spikes that are on his back that are radioactive that glow. So on that aspect, I will say that they kind of put it back to the original. Now, it did have elements of the original Godzilla movies. It had the brooding Japanese scientist. And in this one, he never stopped brooding. He was just like so serious through the whole thing. And again, the acting is terrible. Horrendously acted. Every one of those actors in this movie were flatlining. Except for, I will give that kudos to I guess he's Japanese, the little child on the train who was, when the door shuts and I don't want to give away movies, but, again, I don't think you should waste your money on it. But to the little dude, I'll give him kudos. He's on this train and the doors are closing. His parents are on the other side of the door and he starts looking frightened and whatever. He's probably the best actor in the whole movie. And speaking of little Japanese kids, there is a tradition of Godzilla movies that there's always one little Japanese kid that goes, "Oh, Godzilla!" Nobody said, "Oh, Godzilla" this time. The kid didn't even say, "Oh, Godzilla." He's just riding on this train after this soldier says he's going to take him back to his parents, which I could swear that he's like several stops and he's still riding with on this train with this kid, So, yeah, these kids being kidnapped, let's face it. And the soldier dude gives the kid a toy soldier. It's like, okay, what's the point on that toy soldier? I mean, what is the point in that? Are you just trying to entice the kid, like give him free candy, free toys, or make him think he's going to be safe with you? You know? Now, getting on to the monsters. For most of the movie, the monsters were just walking around. They didn't destroy all that much considerably. I mean, yeah, they did destroy a few things, but they didn't destroy that much. The battles were weak at best. I mean, usually in Godzilla movies, they start out with a strong battle, then he goes away, they separate temporarily, and then they come back and have another brawl. Didn't happen in this one. They're basically Godzilla's either swimming or walking around and everything, hardly destroying anything. The creatures, which look suspiciously like, I believe they're called Striders in Dark Crystal. I'm not sure, because it's been a while since I've seen that movie. But good movie, by the way. I recommend that movie. But they looked like the Striders in Dark Crystal. I mean, they looked awkward. They looked like someone was using stilts, elongated stilts, and they were like a combination of a bat, possibly a humanoid, possibly a lizard combination? I don't know, for the enemy creatures. They really looked awkward, okay? Now, there were, again, inconsistencies in the movie. First off, I want to say the music was not well planned out. The music had all... You would think if they're having a brawl, the monsters having a brawl, there would be something really heavy metal or rock and roll-y or maybe Godzilla's traditional theme march, or something. But no, they had this little wispy sounding music that sounded like he should have been in a meditation chamber. It's like, oh, Godzilla, find your centerpiece. I mean, it was tinkly, wispy sounding music while they're having the monster brawls. What the hell is with that? Okay? And now, back to the inconsistencies. One of the ones that was really noticeable is in the scene where there's a dog who's leashed to a light pole with a really strong web leash, one of those really thick, wide web leashes that they have for dogs. And he starts barking when Godzilla starts coming in, from the water. And in the next scene, the dog is running for his life. This web leash clearly is smooth. It isn't snapped. It hasn't been chewed through. The thing is clearly been cut and then looks like it's so smooth that it looks like somebody actually took a fire and smoothed it out the edge with a fire. Boy, that is one talented dog, let me tell you. The dog can only warn people that Godzilla's coming, but he is able to get a pair of scissors and cut his leash open and then re-heal the leash by sealing it up with fire or something to make it nice and smooth so his owners won't be mad at him. Yeah, that's realistic? Okay. Now another scene, the soldier, okay, when they discover that the female enemy creature has laid her eggs in this cavern, and they're like all over the top of the cavern and around the walls and whatever, and it's a big, huge ass cavern. Okay, this guy comes out to the top surface after they destroyed part of the city, and there's some decorations or whatever, and he comes out to the surface. He breaks open like a fire hydrant or a fire truck hose thing, whatever that is. And, and all this brown, icky water starts coming out. Remind me never to drink the water there. That's just, disgusting. And then what was the point in the water? They didn't tell plot-wise what the water was doing. If he was trying to fill up this cavern to, say, drown these eggs or whatever, that to fill up that cavern of that size would have taken almost several months to a year. And then they show this decorative dragon, which I'm not sure, but maybe they're like hinting at what the next movie is going to be with some kind of dragon in it or something. But they show this decorative dragon drowning under the water, and then they leave it like that. It's like, what? And then another scene, he is supposed to be the bomb expert and the only one that can control this bomb, and be able to disarm it or arm it or whatever, not arm it, but disarm it because he's a bomb expert. And they're going to, this so-called general, again, flatline acting, he shows no emotion. None of the actors in this thing show any emotion. And in this scene, he's on, the bomb has been partially munched on by the creatures, and the casing is like fused shut because it's like stuck because of the way they bit into it. He takes this bomb onto a boat, assumingly he's going to either set it off on the creatures or get it away from the populace. I'm not really sure. But he takes it on the boat and he starts passing out because of all he's going through here. And then they rescue him. He's almost passed out and he sees like the helicopter coming down to rescue him off this boat. Yet the bomb was still taken away. And then it's like, and then all of a sudden you don't really see what happens to the bomb. Did it blow off? Did somebody disarm it? And how did they disarm it? Because of the fact that nobody else is supposed to be able to disarm the bomb because he's the supposed expert, and everybody else is like dead. And then in the ending, we see Godzilla after his battle. He looks like he's dead. He's lying in the rubble of the city, looking all chalky and ashy. And then all of a sudden, he comes back to life. Did he swallow the bomb? What's the deal here? And let's see. And some of the other inconsistencies. Besides the fact, if you're a true Godzilla fan, that they didn't destroy any temples, and I'm a true Godzilla fan, and almost every Godzilla movie they've ever made, they've destroyed a temple somewhere. That was another point, but that's just me. Being a big fan as I am, but and getting back to the flat acting, they had like nobody's panicking. They're all like, "Oh, Godzilla! Oh, the creatures are coming!" And nobody's even noticing these creatures are coming. They're stomping through major cities here, and hardly anybody's noticing anything happening. They're worried about a little bit about a typhoon. It looks like the waves are coming in. Nobody seems to notice that these creatures are tromping around through the metropolises here. At one point, they're in Las Vegas, and the people are playing slots. And the power goes out, and it's like nobody's freaking out over the fact that the power goes out. Nobody's freaking out at the fact that they can't play their slot machines to get their money. Nobody even notices that these things are coming around and tromping around. Not one person was screaming in terror. Only the one lead woman was crying, supposedly crying that she missed her husband, the soldier, in one scene, and she wasn't even that good at the cry. It was just like, okay, people, you're in terror here. There's major creatures destroying your cities. They could stomp on you or eat you, and nobody notices. Okay, what's going on here? Admittedly, soldiers probably would be trained like that to not respond by fear, but the populace aren't afraid. Come on, really? And then twice the people that got separated find their loved ones. Twice, the kid that was on the train with this supposed safe soldier. That probably is really a perv in disguise, but that's a whole other ballgame. But the dude's with the soldier, and they're filling out emergency papers or whatever as to for FEMA. And again, oh yeah, let's get FEMA in this. They're bad enough as it is. Could we make this any worse? By mentioning FEMA in there. Yeah, it's like Oh, please. FEMA's a monster in their own rights, all right? But this little Japanese kid, he's with the soldier and he walks away, and then all of a sudden, his mom is right there. She just happens to be in this FEMA encampment in this place, you know? And then afterwards, toward the end of the movie, with the soldier's own kid and wife, you know, he finds his kid, but they don't even tell how he found his kid. You know, and he's in the FEMA thing in the stadium with all these people that are out of their homes and whatever, you know, and need emergency help. And then all of a sudden, his wife walks in, and she's just like, and they just like, oh yeah, I found you, you know? Seriously? It don't work that way, people. You just don't walk into somewhere and say, oh yeah, they're there, you know? You have to search. You have to find them. Dead or alive, you're not just gonna walk in twice in a thing and find your loved ones instantaneously, please. So, okay, I'm done with my rant here for this movie. Don't bother seeing it. If you're a Godzilla fan and you have to see it to want to support the franchise, you know, maybe they'll get it right next time, well, okay, fine. Maybe my recommendation would be to wait till it comes out on video and goes to a discount bin for $5 before you buy that. Just buy a DVD copy, and you know, and then it will support the franchise, and maybe they'll get it right. Okay. Now that I'm finished with my rant about the movie, one other thing about Godzilla that I want to mention. Okay. This is more of a speculation thing. This is for the people that are so quirky about Godzilla not being able to exist. Okay, these are for like the scientific minds and whatever. I just want to say, admittedly, yeah, if you had a lizard, theoretically that he is constructed as a lizard, it could, and he's like 300 whatever feet tall, admittedly, yeah, his bones would probably collapse. And again, his lungs and hearts and whatever probably wouldn't be able to support all that massive weight and would collapse. But this is under the theory that he's a normally large lizard. I mean, considering Godzilla feeds on radiation, first off, he may not be eating humans, okay? And maybe he just eats fish as a snack. That may not be his primary source of food. He obviously eats radiation, absorbs radiation, which means he probably has some kind of mutated body besides being really big. Like maybe his flesh is not like normal flesh, like a real lizard would be. Maybe his bones aren't normal either. Maybe they're like some kind of like, say, mutated like animal or insect thing. Like maybe his bones are ultra light, you know, or I mean his flesh is ultra light or something, you know. Like maybe he's like a mutated sea sponge and can support weight or like that or something like that. And maybe his bones are like some kind of weird cross between like spider DNA, you know, spider silk DNA, and his bones are like steel or something. You know, they don't necessarily mean that they're normal bones, okay, people? But, you know, it just, I know theoretically he couldn't exist, but theoretically he could exist because of the fact there are all kinds of creatures on this planet that are real creatures, not just movie creatures, that shouldn't exist, that shouldn't do what they can do, but do. Like bumblebees, they are aerodynamically impossible to fly, but yet they fly. Hummingbirds are like freaking jump jets, okay? They could go all over the place. And there's all kinds of weird creatures, like the eye, which has a really long claw in the middle, you know? Creatures have adaptations. And if for example, there was a nuclear creature, maybe, just maybe, he would have adaptations that would compensate for the fact that his bones wouldn't support his weight and he may not eat people. You know, maybe he just would snack on them, like Cheetos. You don't need to eat Cheetos to survive, yet you like eating them, okay? So, for all the people out there that say that he can't exist, well, I'm saying it's a possibility that he could, okay? And again, I don't care. You know, you want to send bad comments, you want to send good comments, whatever. That's my thought on the movie. That's my thought about Godzilla. And again, I know he's a fake. He's a movie icon. You know, let's try to get back to the movie icon Godzilla, where he was actually a decently made monster. Admittedly, not all the Godzilla movies were bad. Not all of them were good. But there are good examples, but this was not one of them. So, anyways, that's my thought on it. Take it as you will. Bye.